Hello there, Komal. Welcome back to what's turning out to be a three-part little series that we've got going here on getting things done, and I guess the topic of getting to a state of stress-free productivity. Now, for everyone that's watching and listening, Komal is a certified GTD coach at Productivity First and works with a lot of individuals and businesses to get to that ultimate goal of stress-free productivity. So, Komal, welcome back. As I said, this is part three. So, glad to have you back on this episode where we're going to dive into the last two stages of this getting things done framework, and that is the reflect and engage stage. So, welcome back.
Thank you, Daniel, and nice to be back and see you again after some time. So it's good to get the third episode
Now,
going.
for everybody that's coming in at this point, can you just give us a little bit of a recap, a helicopter view or a high level overview of getting things done and the different components or the different steps in the actual framework?
So the getting things done method is a systemic approach to get stuff done, right? So that we can be we can make a trusted choice about whatever we are doing. With the number of things that are coming towards us. So, as we discussed in the previous episodes, there are 5 steps to achieving stress-free productivity. For that, what we need to do is we need to gather all that has our attention, capture it. So, the first step we call it capture all that has our attention, small, big, personal, professional. And second step that brings us to the second step where we clarify, we make decisions about them, what to do, what not to do on any given basis. And then whatever, the output of that is fed into the organize phase. The third phase is the organize, where we organize the reminders in appropriate places so we can see them. And that brings us to the reflect. We can see them, we can reflect on it on a regular basis. Um, and then when we are ready to engage, we can make a trusted choice. A lot of times we say, I need to prioritize. How do you prioritize when you don't have the full picture in front of you? So what the getting things done method allows us to do is to have the full overview of all our commitments so we can make judgment calls about which one takes priorities. Our priorities change daily, if not hourly nowadays, so it helps us recalibrate and get back on no matter what's happening if we have the whole view in front of us of all the commitments, and that's what this is about.
Yeah, and I guess the whole idea of this workflow management is to not let your brain, I guess, become lax, but more to enable it to be free, to experience, productive and creative activity, and that type of thing. And you touched on the other methods or the key elements there. And in episode one, we took a look at things at a high level and went into a little bit about that first step of capturing. The second episode, we took more of a look at the clarifying and the organizational aspects. And now, obviously, we're on to the next two stages where we're going to dive into, and that is the reflect and engage stage. So let's tackle the reflect stage. So keeping things all fresh and functional. Now, obviously, reviewing the systems that we have in place on a regular basis, and the contents of that, and keeping it current and functional is a key aspect also to getting to a point where we do understand or we do have control over everything. So tell me a little bit about what the reflect stage actually is and what's involved, and some key steps that people can start to take now that we're capturing it, we're getting things out of our head, we're clarifying, we're organizing it. What do we do now?
So look, we do all kind of reflections, right? But the major one that we talk about in the method, the getting things done method, is the weekly review. And obviously we have best practices for what to review on a daily basis, etc. But the weekly review is the time where we want to, at least once a week, we want to go over everything that we have committed to and make those decisions. So it allows us. The reflection time is very precious because we don't get that time on a day to day. You're just running around, doing the things that you need to do, and to have that, we call it the hot air balloon ride of all that you are committed to. So day to day, you're running on the ground. And once a week, if you have a hot air balloon ride of all the things, it's a different vantage point and a different thinking power. So you're thinking, you're not in the doing stage where you just let me do this, let me do this, let me go. It's more about let me calm down and just reflect on everything. You feel, even though you may not do much work during that, you're just reviewing, you feel that there is you feel more clear about your priorities for the next week. Some things that may have come up the last week, you haven't had the time to nail them, because you were moving so fast. You get to actually get very clear about what is it that is coming, what are your commitments from it, how are things changing in your world, what are the new things that are coming in. We go through a comprehensive process so that we can look at things that may have been missed, or things that are coming towards us, and we are ready for it, so that we don't turn up on Monday morning and realize, oh my God, I've got a meeting now in an hour, and I haven't been able to prepare for it. So having all that perspective in place is quite I think it's a necessity in this day and age.
So, what are some best practice? I mean, is there a good time of day or a good day of the week, or in your experience, when you've coached other people, what are some best practices or tips and tricks that people can start to implement to help them in this stage?
The best practice is to do it when you are not in a rush and you got high energy, right? Those are the two key criterias. And you have the system to review. Of course, you've got to have your list and everything that you to review. Um, I mean, we used to think, Friday afternoon, but we used to say Friday afternoon because Friday afternoon you get to then close off anything that you need to close off before you go for the weekend. But it's not about that, because some people are toast on a Friday afternoon. Some people like to do it on a Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon, or Wednesday, so that they got, half of the week to finish off things, get closure on something. Some people do it on a Monday morning, and that gets them off, ready for the week. They start work early and they do it early. Some people do it on a weekend. I personally do it on a Saturday morning because, during the week I'm taking people through their weekly reviews or teaching them, coaching them, consulting. So I don't get the time to actually sit down and do a review without being rushed. So I do it on a Saturday morning. The good thing would be to, create a habit. We are all creatures of habit. Create a habit, and some consistent way. So I sit down with my cup of tea in a special place, and that sets me off. When I was traveling, I used to sit in the plane rides were the best because nobody disturbs you there, and you can do it. If it's a long plane ride, you can do a really good weekly
Yeah.
review.
Now, I'm assuming you're very good at this practice of getting things done and going through each of these stages yourself. What are the kind of? Can you give me an example of some the kind of activities that you're doing in this reflect stage? I mean, some examples of what activities you actually do and go through this stage.
So we have a checklist of things, a basic
Yeah.
checklist. I mean, people can add whatever they want, but basic checklist of things we look at. And there are three parts to the weekly review. There are 11 steps to the weekly
Hmm.
review. And the three parts are get clear, get current, get creative. So in the get clear part, you just, there are three steps to it, but basically you are gathering anything that has not been cleared. So you look around, anything on the desk that doesn't belong where it is, get that to zero. Make sure that your emails are zero. Anything your mind swept, you captured. In episode 1 we talked about capture. So all that to zero, and then you also just reflect on, is there anything that I missed not capturing because I was in a rush. So the first part is just to get clear. The heart of the weekly review is the get current, right? So, and there are 6 steps to that. And basically what you're doing is you're reviewing your next actions list, marking off things that are finished, anything you remember to add, you add. You look at your waiting for list. Anything that's come back, you check off the received ones. Anything you need to follow up, because waiting for is just a list of things you're waiting for other people to do, right? And so you look at that. You look at the past calendar to make sure that there is nothing that we are missing, because a lot of time things are going fast. Some meetings might be cancelled, they need to be rescheduled, something must happen. So the weekly review really allows us to make sure that nothing's left behind, that we don't want to left behind. I mean, we may decide that something, we don't need to chase that one off, but that's a conscious choice. So it's a guardrail. Then you look at the week coming up and go, okay, what is it that I need? Sometimes there are things that are due 4 weeks from now. And I have done that now because I know the next few weeks are just crazy, busy, very busy. And I won't get time to do it, although it was not important, not urgent. It just needed to be done within that 4 weeks. But also, you may have something that's coming towards you. Let's say I've got a meeting 2 weeks from now. And if I don't start from next Monday, I would not finish preparing for it. Then I want to put some guardrails in place so I can start working on it. Some projects require a daily hour or 2 daily because you're working towards a major project. So it just gives you a really clear idea of what your priorities are, what is coming towards you from week to week. You look at your calendar backwards and forwards. You look at your projects list, your multiple step outcomes list, and go, okay, now that whatever's happened, what is my next action now? Define them in your list so that then you have a clear idea of what are the things you need to work on. And that gives you, content to review and decide on, because the whole point is you being very comfortable with where you are. It's like a spa treatment or cognitive shower that we feel when we do that. That's your get current, and then you would get creative, is where you would look at your someday maybe list and have any creative ideas to add, you can add. Now what happens is, once you start, your mind starts to become very clear. It starts to become very creative. So the last step of the weekly review, which is, do you have any crazy ideas to add to your system? It will happen on its own. You work the previous 10 steps, and the 11th step happens on its own.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Yeah, it sounds like it's it's a big a big part of this, of getting things done, is this weekly review. Not only are we looking at our different lists, but we're also looking, as you said, forwards into the future, and really capturing anything. Well, we're doing some capturing during that stage too, by the sounds of it, in terms of making sure that we haven't missed anything previously, but also, getting things out of our head that, that we need to do for anything that's upcoming as well. So it's not just looking at reviewing our current list. It's also doing quite a bit more than that. And it's, well, for me, I think this is a really big part of this whole framework is this, and getting into the habit of actually scheduling time in for yourself to be able to actually do this properly, I think makes a really big difference. Do you find people, struggling with this part of it, or is this something that they find relatively easy to undertake?
This is the one that people struggle
Mm,
a lot. And what happens, Daniel, is that when you don't review the system, things creep back into your head. So you because your subconscious is not
mm,
sure that you are going to go through with this. The only way you can be present and you not stress is if you're reviewing the system. I do find that people who do that regularly for a couple of months, it's not an issue because you start craving for that space, that weekly review. Because after doing the weekly review, you may not have done work, but you feel on top of whatever you are surfing, and you crave for that feeling. So you go, I need to do a weekly review, and that's how I feel now. I don't find it difficult. I feel it peaceful. You feel peaceful after a weekly
mm.
review, but you need to the key thing. When I say you, I mean one needs to really make sure that they go through it, enough that then they start craving for it. So the habit formation takes time.
Yeah, yeah.
And sorry, I just thought I'll mention giving one a gift after doing a weekly review can help. So some people give themselves a chocolate that they only have. Yeah, they only have after a weekly review, or some sort of a reward that can help, bring this habit forward.
You will give them a reward, or they'll give themselves a reward. You'll send
They
them
give
one.
themselves. No.
Right.
They
Okay.
give themselves the
Okay.
reward. Whenever they do one, they give themselves. So it could be a drink. It could be, one of my friends. He'll have a ginger honey tea with lots of honey that he only allows himself to have during that time. Someone will have a chocolate. Different people,
Yeah.
different
Very
treats.
good.
Um,
Very good.
yeah.
Okay, it's a really good overview of that reflect stage. Now we move into the, I guess well, we can call it the last stage, but the engage stage. Can you outline a little bit for us now, the viewers and the listeners, what the I guess the frameworks or the priority frameworks that we're going to talk about here for deciding actions? I know there's a lot of detail in this section, so we won't go into too much detail in here, but there's some resources that we'll point to for people that are wanting to understand this part in a lot more detail. But let's just talk a little bit now about this, the engage stage, or the engage step.
The whole purpose of the 5 step is that when we engage, we can engage with confidence that we're not missing anything. A lot of times we are doing things and hoping nothing falls through the cracks. But when we do, when we have a complete system to review, we can be confident that this is as complete as can be because it's got everything I'm committed to. So I'm very comfortable with making that choice. So engaging becomes easier when you do that. Now, there are some frameworks we use, So if I ask you, Daniel, you've got 15 minutes, look at your list and decide which one will you do,
Hmm.
right? So the key things you'll think about is given where you are, what can you possibly do, right? So if you are in a place, you're not out and about, so you can't run an errand. So you will think of, okay, I've got my computer, I've got a phone, so what can I possibly do? The location is important
Hmm.
as well. And then you think about, I've got 15 minutes because that's what Komal said. You've got 15 minutes. And then you'll think, okay, what can I possibly do? You'll also think you'll make a different choice now than at the end of the day, right? So the energy piece also. So we do this intuitively. Now, what happens is in getting things done, we put it as a formula so that when I'm tired, right? I will, because there are 3 things I talked about: where you are, how much time you have, and how much energy you have. Now, if you put it into a formula, when you're tired, a lot of times, people are tired, but they're trying to battle through the work. And it takes a lot more energy. They're not that productive because it takes longer for them to do it. But if we put this as a formula, we may be able to go, okay, if I'm tired, I'm going to pick things that are very easy for me to do. And they are at least out of the way. And when I'm high in energy, I'll tackle that big ticket item that I will take hours doing it, but in the morning it will take me 45 minutes. But right now I'm tired and it will take me 2 hours. And it won't be up to the standard anyway because I am just battling through. I'm brain dead right now. So what the methodology allows is, one part. I mean, there's more criteria to this, but one part is this big piece about, what can you possibly do. Also, if you have your next actions written down, you can easily pick up 15 minutes worth of work. If you got 15 minutes, you can make a phone call because you've got a list of calls. Traditionally, we have all our next actions buried in the projects. So think of it as you got 15 project files and you got to look through each one of the file to figure out which call to make. It's not an easy thing. And by the time you're finished, the time's finished. Right? Your 15 minutes are gone. So it does help you in that the method helps you in sort of deciding, yeah, I can make this phone call. My meeting's running running late, and I've got 10-15 minutes. Let me make that phone call. You can make use of small windows of time when you use this as a formula. So that's sort of one thing. And obviously, I mean, the other thing would be if, let's say, you have 5 calls that you can make in the 15 minutes. You got your phone, you got a list of people to call, and you are full in energy. Let's say you got 5 phone calls. You'll make the one that gives you the most value. That will be also very clear. However, what we do is, when we go through the methodology, we have what we call the horizons of focus, which represent our priorities. Your next actions, etc. They are at the ground level, and then you have the projects, which are horizon 1. About the projects, and these are all the multiple stop items that you will finish within a year.
Yeah.
And then you got all the areas of focus and accountabilities, all the different things that you're keeping on a healthy level. That could be your job description, all the different areas that you are responsible to keep them at a healthy level. It could be, your fun, it could be well-being, it could be career. I mean, you never finish these things. So this is what personal development, you never finish it. You just keep developing. So those are all your areas of focus. That gives you a little bit more information. When you got 5 phone calls to make, that may also bear in which project, which area of focus, and you will make a decision about that so that's your horizon 2. And then about that is your goals, things you want to, achieve in the next couple of years. What are your goals for the next couple of years? And that again will give you much more clarity about which call to make, right? Above your goals is your vision about where you want to be long term, 5 years, 10 years from now, right? So that's your vision, and that's your horizon 4. Horizon 5 is your purpose. Why are you on this planet? Why do you have this job? What is the purpose of the organization? What are the goals of the organization? What is the vision for the organization? All this represent our priorities. And so the point here is that you will make a judgment call based on your priorities. We do explicit, make it a model in the method. However, if the key thing you will need is having all your lists so that you can, all your commitments in a list so that you can then make those decisions.
So you
So
would
coming back,
am I hearing it right in that this you use those models to help you make those decisions on choosing the actions that you're going to take in that moment based on, yeah, okay.
Yes. So you don't always go through, you look at the 5 goals and you go, okay, let me look at my vision, let me
Yeah.
look at my goals. But if you have defined them, you would work within them. So the point I was trying to make is we realize that, okay, so where I am, what I'm doing, how much time I have, and also how much energy, that gives me some idea of what I can do in the
Mm.
15 minutes. And then the next piece is the priorities piece. And, the priorities piece is much more complex, but yet we will work within the priorities. You will make a call that that will give you the
Yeah.
most value. The horizons of focus makes it very clear where your priorities are once you go through that exercise. Another thing you would also look at, because a lot of people get stuck in this, they get stuck in their emails, right? Because they open their emails, and apart from their appointments, they work out of their email inbox. It's very common when people come to us. I mean, I myself, before I got TTT, I was having that
Mm.
syndrome, right? Now it's been second nature. I mean, it's been what, 15, 17 years that I've been practicing this method. However, I remember, you get lost in the email world. Whereas once you have this method, you also have this, there are 3 types of works you got to do. What are the 3 different kind of work you have to do? One is the work you've already defined for yourself. So you captured, clarified, organized all those lists. And you have also your calendar is your predefined work. So you have all that. You look at all that. That gives you some information about where you're going to spend your time, and you can have some things that you have to do from there. The second type of work is things that turn up, unplanned work, right? And the third type of activity is the defining work, and that's the part that is missing a lot when people come to us because they are stuck in email all
Mm.
day. Is basically just clarifying and organizing all the inputs, including the email. So you are very clear about your work, and then you choose where you put your energy. So that again gives us more clarity about where we spend our time and in what proportion. We got to be doing all three. I mean, unplanned happens, and when unplanned happens, what to do, right? So it gives us a lot more. There are no disruptions, only mismanaged
Mm.
occurrences. A lot of people feel their whole day goes in
Mm.
unplanned.
Yeah.
And so there are some strategies that we can use about that if we are aware that, okay, we need to do this. A lot of people get stuck in the predefined so much, they forget defining work, which is clarifying their
Yeah.
ins, and then they can't trust their system
Yeah,
anymore.
and I think one of the, especially for me, one of the big things is having multiple different ins, and you spoke about there before. A lot of people are stuck in their inbox a lot of the time, or the communication that's coming in via email, which is still a lot. And I also find myself in Microsoft Teams. So we've got two really well. Teams is very very high velocity, so we're getting a lot of input and a lot of messages and a lot of content coming at us through Microsoft Teams, for example, through instant messages or chats or that type of thing. We've also got email, but what I've found really really helpful, especially using these methods, while probably not to the letter of the law, but being able to quickly and have a system that we do trust and we do know that we're going to look at every single day. We are going to engage with it. And I think I've mentioned on a previous episode that I use Microsoft To Do and OneNote quite heavily. And being able to have these lists that I've now set up to be able to capture all the ins from email and then from Teams into, let's say, Microsoft To Do, I have found extremely beneficial. Being able to actually just capture all of that has been probably the biggest probably the biggest takeaway, the biggest change that I've seen that's impacted on my ability to be able to capture everything. Now, I'm probably not as good at this review stage and making that a priority. I need to get better at that myself personally, and I think that's probably the part for me that I'm missing a little bit. I need to get better at that, and I think once that's done, then it's I think they all then tie together with that review. That way we can then free ourselves and make sure that we are on top of everything. So look, it does sound quite complex, but when you start practicing it and you make it habitual in what you're doing, I think it just becomes second nature. And do you find that sometimes people are very overwhelmed with the whole methodology or the whole framework to begin with, but once they start, they kind of get used to everything that they're doing?
It's actually, once people hear of the methodology, it seems very simple, right? Very simple. All I have to do is write down everything whether it's digital or wherever I'm writing. I just need to make decision about it, organize it, reflect on it, and then I'm ready to engage, right? So it's actually a very common sense method, but there is a subtlety to it. And that's the part that people struggle with. I don't find people get overwhelmed with the methodology. Actually, when they find the methodology, they actually feel, oh my God, I've been suffering and there is a way out, right? But there is hard work. It's the laziest way to get from point A to point B, but you got to develop the habits. And what people struggle with is the habits, because they want to do it. It's just, you learn things one way, and to learn it the other way, it takes a bit of effort. Doesn't take much, but it does take a bit of effort. And look, we recognize this. So for the last 2 years, we have actually, as part of our training, we have also introduced a reinforcement program, a training reinforcement program that helps people after the course with bite-sized, information that's reinforced for the next 16 weeks. It's a 16-week program that we have. So the course itself, and I'm not talking the course, but what I'm talking about is that it's the habits. We recognize that the habits take time. And if people persist with the habits, the rewards are there. We do not find people getting overwhelmed with the methodology. They just realize that there is a bit of hard work and it takes time. That's all, to change it. Some people get it like this, so they're able to change very quickly. Some people take longer. It just depends.
Yeah, I mean, I find that as well, and this is more of a topic of change and adoption and things like that. Especially, the areas that I work in. People changing to do and use technology in a different way to help them in their day-to-day work. If that doesn't become habitual, they will go back to their old way of working, or they will go back to their old tools, and maybe be a little bit less productive, rather than sticking at and creating that habit. And I think it's a fairly good comparison into how to tackle getting things done as well, is to become habitual in all of these processes.
True. And with any habit, you got to persist. That's all. I mean, we used to think 21 days, but it's not 21 days. For some people, it's 60 days. Some people, it's 120 days. So it can take, on an average, they've found that it's 66 days.
66 days to create that habit?
To persist,
right.
Yeah. Right. And so, if you think about weekly review, it takes about 6 to 8 weekly reviews, because that's a weekly activity, not a daily activity, right? And about 8 weekly reviews, you feel present, you feel you got grip on that. So my invitation to you, because you mentioned about your struggle, is to do the weekly review. Send me an email every time you do the weekly review. Komal, I've done a weekly review. What I'm alluding to is that having a buddy system with someone who is also practicing GTD and being accountable for each other can help with these habits as well.
Yeah, excellent tip. Now, as we wrap things up, we've gone through quite a lot of content over these last 3 episodes, and it's been very valuable for everybody that's been watching and listening. So I really appreciate you sharing all of the insights that you have working with this system over many years, both individuals and with businesses as well. Now, for people that I have posted this in other episodes, the show notes as well, but for people that are wanting to take this a little bit of a step further, find out a lot more and go into a lot more detail, where can they go to find out more information, whether it's your training courses or coaching or other resources that you've got available?
So my website, productivityfirst.com.au, it has a lot of resources about, there are some articles there. There are some videos that they can watch and start from there. So if they want to get started, the Getting Things Done book is a valuable resource as well. So they can start wherever they find is best for them. The book is available in audio and in paper formation, so they can get or any form that they are happy with. My website also has a lot of information on it. So go to productivityfirst.com.au and let me know if you need any help.
Perfect.
If they need any pointers, they can contact me through the website. I'm happy to help as well. Other things, they can contact me via LinkedIn as well if they've got any questions. Anything, I'm happy to help.
I think actually, in addition to that, I think I just saw something that was published on on David Allen's site or the GTD site, something about the, Microsoft Teams as well. So I think there's now a little ebook about the GTD framework with and how to use Microsoft Teams in that for it as well. So I'm going to go and grab that because I use Teams every single day. And I'm going to take a look at that. I'll also share my experiences with from the outcome of that book of that little ebook as well, and see if there's any value for you guys watching and listening as well. So, Komal, I really appreciate it. 3 episodes, a lot of value, a lot of content, and thanks for taking the time for sharing your expertise. And thank you very much.
My pleasure, Daniel. It's good to work with you as well.